Hello friends, welcome to my channel Go Digit. Today in this video we will learn about one of the type of code unit which is called Install Codeunit. Okay, so let's begin with that. Here I have already opened up the Visual Studio Code and have already created one project named as AL Project 1. Okay, so now if we see these two files, so in the first file I have created one table, name is Install Codeunit, and have created three fields in this table. The first field is entry number, which is the primary key. Second field is the install text, and the third field is upgrade text. Both these two fields are of the type code. Okay, and here is the primary key of the table. Now if I move to the second file, here I have created a list page of my table install code unit, and here I have defined all my these three fields. Okay, now as I told you that this video is all about the install code unit. Friends, install code unit is one of the type of our code unit object, and the major use of the code unit object is that it comes or it helps the developer to configure their extension after the installation in the Business Central. Okay, so for example, in normal scenario, when we install or when we develop any object in the Navision or the Business Central, and we feel that in order to run this object or in order to run my development or extension or application successfully, I want to pre-configure some data, some setup table, okay, with some values. So in those scenarios, rather than a developer should do it manually in the Business Central right after the installation, they can do the same stuff via AL code using like when they are actually doing the development, so that during the time of installation they don't have to worry about that they have to configure the data also in order to run their application in a smooth manner. Okay, so for example, just to understand that basic concept, I have created this table in my extension. Now I want that once I install this application, these fields or this table should be populated with some default values. Okay, so one option is that I just install this extension in the Business Central, then open this page, and in this page I can manually input some data or manually input my default values. Okay, this is the normal option. And in order to avoid that manual work, what you can do, you can create one installation code unit. Let's say I'll create one file, and here I'll type the name and ID. Here let me write the name of my code unit, install code unit test. Okay, so this is the name of my code unit. Now let me remove this part, and here we have to define the type of my code unit, and to define that type we have the property available called subtype. So if you are not aware like what are the types of the code unit in the Business Central, then you can press Ctrl plus space and it will tell you that what are the different types of code unit you can define while writing the code. Okay, so this video is basically based on install code unit, so we will use this. However, there are other options available also. Normal is something which is like in normal scenarios, whatever the code unit we write, those code unit are normal. Okay, and these test and test runner are the testing code units, which for example the developers or the testing team, which they use, where they write the test cases and in the Excel, and they test accordingly the development. So to avoid that, you can write your unit test cases in this code unit, and so that once you install your extension, system not only install your data system not only install your development, your objects, your application, but it also test your uh, development with whatever the test cases you write in the test code unit. Okay, and another type is upgrade. Upgrade is something which we will cover in the next video, because both install and upgrade are very relatively or used with the extension development, because we know that whenever we create a basic extension, it always defined with some version. So if I talk about this application, it has the version currently 1.0.0.0, and as you can see that the tooltip says that it has the format x.y.u.z. So x means the major, the y means minor, u means build, and z means revision. Okay, so this is the major version. So whenever you have done anything extraordinary changes in your application, you have to change the number in the major part. Okay, so this is the major part, this is the minor part. Okay, so this is like that. So for example, whenever you work with the extensions, you actually work with the versions of your application. So on the very first time when you install or your extension in the production environment, you define the version as 1.0.0.0. But later on, if you receive any changes or if you receive any update, either from Microsoft, when, like for example, in every 6 months we receive the major upgrade version of the Business Central. So in that latest version, there could be a chances that Microsoft have removed some of the standard fields or some of the standard code which directly related to your application. So those just to handle those breaking changes, you need to make change in your application also. So for that part, you can use the upgrade code unit, where you will write the code to handle that deprecated portion which you have used in your initial versions of the application. Okay, so that part we will cover in the next video. Right now our main focus will be on the install code unit. So let me define the subtype as install. All right, now as soon as you define the subtype install in your code unit, you will find that it comes with certain triggers. So press Control space, and now you can see that there are two triggers available for the install type of code unit. The first trigger's name is that on install app per company, and the second one is on install app per database. So the name of the trigger define their use by itself, that if your database is having multiple companies, or if you are using the multi-tenant database, that means that database have multiple companies, maybe of the same client or maybe of the different clients. So obviously you do not want the other companies to hamper with your installation, because there could be a times that when you install your extension, you may encounter some of the issues which definitely you do not want hamper your other companies. So for that, it is recommended that you should always use on install app per company. But in case your client is same, your database is having one company, or like your database may have multiple companies but your client is same, so for that scenario you can, and your extension also requires to be used in all the companies in that particular database, then obviously rather than writing the code again and again per company wise, you can use this trigger. Okay, but let me use this trigger only. And here what we should do is that let me define my table, which is install code unit. Okay, and here, because now the thing is that I'm installing this extension for the very first time in my database. Okay, and I want that only when this extension installed for the very first time, then only I want this install code unit to be run or to be used. All right, otherwise not. So in that scenario, what I can write is that if sample tab dot is empty, then begin and let me write one function with some values. So okay, let me write the correct name because we will be installing the data in my table. So let's say here all right, and let me define 2 times. So here what I'm doing, first of all, let me define it as a procedure. So what I'm telling is that what I'm trying to do here is that when this install code unit runs, it checks that if my table is empty, then only it will insert these values. Okay, and because it is my setup table, and that's why I want that it should insert these values for the very first time. Right afterwards, if I reinstall this extension after making some sort of changes, then definitely my setup table is not empty and I don't want to run this install code unit again and again. Okay, so just to avoid that, I'm writing this type of code. And now when this function runs, it will install these values in my table. So for that, let me write the simple init insert code as tab init as tab dot entry number is equals to argument 1, as tab dot install text is equals to argument 2, as tab dot upgrade text is equals to argument 3. Guys, this upgrade text field we will use when in the next video where we will learn about the upgrade code unit. Okay, that's why I have defined this code unit, this field here. Okay, so now let's write as tab dot insert. Okay, simple code. Now what's the error is coming? Okay, got it. So here, because it is an integer, so we do not need the quotes here. Okay, that's it. Here, let me define it as an integer, and the issue is solved. All right, I want to inform you one more information about one of the data type, which is, okay, here not module info. So guys, although we will learn about this when we learn the use of upgrade code unit, but I just want to give you an idea like what we can achieve with this data type. So for example, this is one of the type where we can check that my extension is installing. I'm installing this extension for the very first time only. But the second portion is that if I use this part, this data type, module info, then we have one function like nav app. Okay, so nav app has these functions available. Like you can see that multiple functions are available, but if you see this one, get current module info, use this and it takes this data type, module info. That's why I've created this data type here. Okay, so let me define this as module. So what is the use of this function? So this, as you can read here, it will get the information about the application that contains the AL object. All right, so this means that it will fetch the values or fetch the information about your complete extension and the objects which you have used in your extension, and store everything in this data type. All right, so with that you can use it in the upgrade code unit to know that if you want your code should run only in some specific versions of your extension, then you can make the use of it. Okay, for example, if you do not want your particular code to run on the version 1 of your extension, then through this you can get the version of your extension like module dot, here you have like app version, data version and everything. Like so you can define that if it is, as I told you that in the version part uh, we have this major, minor, build and revision. So based on it you can define that if my major one is equals to 1, okay, then only you want something, whatever you want, whatever the code you write, then only you can, your code should run. All right, or if your major version of your application is 2, then only you want certain code to run, right? Then only you want certain code to run, then through this you can achieve that. All right, we will learn more about it in the next part of the video, but I just wanted to give you an idea about like how you can fetch out the information of your extensions and the object which are already installed in your database, or if you want to know that whether this object or the extension have already installed it or not. Okay, so with that note, I think our code is done, and let's publish this. Let's publish this code unit and the complete extension and see that after the installation whether my application or whether my table gets this data automatically or not, right? But because I already told you that this is the main use of the install code unit, that whenever you install your extension, it populates your setup table with some default values, whatever you want. Okay, so obviously it will get installed with these values, but let us see. So now it's time to install this extension in your database. So just press Ctrl F5 and see the results. So it has successfully published the extension to the server. So let's go to the Business Central, run it, and press Alt Q to open the search bar, and here we will type the name of our page and see whether my default data is available or not. So yeah, so let's type the name, and this is the name of my page. Click here and see entry number 1, 2, install text red, upgrade text C red. And if you see here, you will find that these are the values which I wanted to get copied to my table right after the installation of my extension. Okay, so this is the major use of the install code unit, that you can configure your setup tables with some default values, whatever you want. So guys, I hope you now have understood the concept, the basic concept or the basic idea behind the subtype install code unit. Okay, so with that note, I just want to close the video today, and for the next type, which is the upgrade type of the code unit, we will learn in the next video. Meanwhile, I request you to please subscribe to my channel and please hit the like button if you like the video. Thank you so much for watching my video.